What do you do when you're a malevolent spirit and you find out a bunch of kids are going to try to kill you by putting a toaster in the pool? You say fuck it and throw the toaster at them first. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Nerdy 430, the podcast where comedian Tim Keck and I nerd out about topics for about 30 minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer, and we have a special guest with us today. One of our great friends. You know him. You love him. It's Julian Williams. Julian, how you doing?
Good, man. They don't know me. I think a lot of people probably love me, but like that's you made a lot of assumptions there. But I thank you for having me. That's really beautiful.
Happy to make those assumptions on your behalf.
Also, was that the log line for the movie, or did you write that?
Oh, if you can believe it, I wrote that. That's not the official log line.
I can believe it. Yes, it's great. It's awesome.
Julian, we are happy to have you. And that's what matters. We're happy to have you. The audience knows you from all your bad Marvel takes. I'm excited to see how bad your horror movie takes are. I assume you hated this movie.
Thank you for having me. No, I love this movie. One, I want to say that I've listened to a few of you guys' things that I've been on, but other stuff that I haven't been on. And it's really cool that it's still going. I think it's also like Nerdy for 30. It's sick. I support it. I do. A lot of our friends are doing podcasts. It's like I listen to this and I listen to Brian's like Dungeons and Dragons podcast. And I just think about like my life. It's great. But yeah, this movie, I love this movie. This is actually one of those movies that I like recommend to people, like from watching. Like I have Shudder. Do you guys have Shudder or know what Shudder is? Mm-hmm. If you don't know what Shudder is, if you're listening, it's basically Netflix or Hulu or whatever, just for horror. Like I watch a lot of horror films, and this is one of my favorites.
This thing is so fucking good.
It's so good. This is like the premise is something I reference all the time. And I think it's been like maybe a couple years since I've seen this movie. I remember really liking it. And then just the basic conceit of somebody constantly following you is so good. And how in the background of like so many shots, there is somebody just walking towards them. It's so simple. It's so easy and it's so effective. I'm so jealous of this idea. I would never make a horror movie probably, but it's such a good idea that I'm like, oh my, I can't believe I've never thought of anything like this. It's such a good premise. I didn't realize how, watching it, I think as an older person now, I am like more sad. I think it feels like more of a sad movie to me. And there are definitely more like grown up shit in this. And it's definitely way more depressing than I remember, if you really think about it. But the basic conceit of this movie is horror genius, I think.
It's like, it is the most anxiety inducing, like there's like horror is based on like fear. But like this has like, okay, so you're thinking of like a horror movie and you think like, okay, I'm going to look inside this closet and then there's nothing in the closet. And then you turn around and then there's like whatever you're afraid of is like right there. That's like the classic like horror thing. This waits like 50 minutes before that actual scare happens. Like, it's like, also, it's like, I told Kevin this when he texted me, it's like it's basically an ad for STDs. It's basically like a condom. Like, I feel like Trojan or like they got together and sponsored this. Like, you know, hey, if you fuck someone, this thing is going to kill you. BTW.
It would be incredible if they had gotten explicit and said that this thing will follow you as soon as you have sex with someone, unless you use a condom.
Yeah. Sponsored by the Mormon Church. Sponsored by the Church of Latter-day Saints.
It might not follow you if you're on the pill, but it's not 100% effective.
If you get birth
so you
control,
better use
it won't
a condom
follow
too.
you. But if you're not on birth control, you better watch out.
The end of the movie should have been them trapping it in a giant condom and then like drowning it.
Oh my God.
It is
incredible. Or they find out that the only thing that can defeat it is penicillin.
Yeah. Or some kind of like really strong talk from a doctor that you trust.
Oh my
it's like
God.
It is like the very like, it's very filled with like anxiety, which I think is but if you have a fear, it's like people always talk about conquering your fears, but people talk about like dealing with your anxiety. So like a fear is like you get brave, you get confident, whatever, you get over it. But anxiety is like it's like this thing that's in this movie, like constantly coming at you and you have to deal with it. When I saw it in theaters, I was really taken aback by it. I didn't expect to like it. I was just kind of like a midday thing. I remember.
Man, it's interesting you say that too. When we saw it in theaters, when it came out, it was also midday, and this is early to jump into a category, but I think it dovetails into it perfectly. When did you know that after the movie ended, you were going to feel paranoid for like another 24 hours? We got out and like you said, it was midday. And so it was like perfectly twilight when the movie ended, which this movie exists in like a perpetual twilight. Yeah. So the tone of the outdoors matched the tone of the movie that we had just seen. And walking through the busy streets in New York City, it was just like any one of these motherfuckers could be after me.
They all follow. They should say that when you come into New York City, like they all follow. I was I'm paranoid anyway. But like afterwards, it is a very like just anyone, like there's so many old people, especially at night, like living in Brooklyn, when you're just walking home. I was at like a Russian Jewish birthday banquet hall last night. And I walked home and I'm just walking and there's just like, I was thinking about this podcast that we were going to do today. And there was just like elderly people and like homeless people walking at me at like a very medium, even pace. And I was like, dude, did I, I was like, did I fuck the wrong person? And now this is happening. This is like a real thing. But also like, it sticks with you because of like, you watch like a Friday the 13th or you watch a Halloween or whatever. And it's like, oh, that will never really, really happen. But like someone just walking at you happens daily. And like, not like they're probably not even thinking about you, but just walking forward at a slow, it's kind of, that's what was scary about it. Like how realistic it was. Also, it's based on fuck all. Like I have no idea why it happens. There's no like reasoning behind. There's no like curse. There's no like fable or whatever. It's just kind of like, yeah, I had sex with you and now you got to deal with this, which is also an STD.
Yeah, it does make it like a more accessible, relatable thing because it just kind of exists. It's just this fact about this world that the characters have found themselves in. That's interesting. The idea that, you're not going to see Freddy Krueger on the street, but because this thing looks like a normal person, the scene it opens up like that scene in the movie theater when it opens up where the boyfriend's like, hey, do you see her? Like, we got to go right now.
Yeah.
Watching that in a movie theater, as soon as that happened, I'm like checking the door next to the screen. Like, oh, yeah. Fuck.
What's crazy about that too? I rewatched it today, like this before we did this. That scene happens 20 minutes in. It's a very slow film. And that happens like 20 minutes in that they go to the movies. It's like that first girl, like you have no idea what's happening. I think the opening scene is fucking awesome. Yeah. Like just her running and it's just a steady, like circular. And then she gets in the car and drives off. And it's just like girl living her life, basically. Mm-hmm. Like I can't wait to go out with this guy later, but that's 20 minutes of just like low key, whatever. Like it's insane to me.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's shocking how interested I was the whole time. I'm like, how am I not bored right now watching this movie? All of my instincts are telling me I should be bored. I am not. What do you guys think of like the role that like sex actually plays in this movie? Because that's the stuff that was like really resonating with me watching it now, probably as like an older person, where I'm just like it's like children in this movie. It's like 19, 18-year-olds going through all this stuff. And it's so depressing to think there's a lot of dumb mistakes I feel like they make, but it's like, yeah, this is the dumb shit that 19-year-old kids do. And they sleep with people who clearly don't give a fuck about them all the time. And then they feel terrible for these like decisions that are like not really their fault in the first place. Like it's simultaneously such a bummer and such an interesting like horror movie,
I think like sex has like this whole, I mean, like we joke about it that it was made by like the Church of Latter-day Saints or by like a condom company, but like it really is like laid on, like the way that this happens to you is through like, I don't even know if it's protected or unprotected, but like having sex. And they are all like, you said 18, 19. I'm thinking these kids are like the main woman, I feel like is like 18. And then like her friends, I feel like are 16 or 15. Like they're very young. They're not like, they're not trying to do this on their way to like the stock market. They're not going to Wall Street. Like after this, I think there's like a college class, the college classroom scene where there's like I think it's college. It might be high school. Like I have no idea. But like when the old woman, I love that they're all naked too. I think that's the best part. Like anything that follows you is an old naked person. Like, oh, did you have sex? Well, here's like, Aunt Dorothy coming to chase you down very slowly. You shouldn't have done that.
The dude gets killed by his mom, like with her tits out. I'm like, what the fuck is
it's
this?
Insane.
This is
super fucked up scene.
It's those little cinematic choices that I think really make the movie what it is.
Dude, it really is like all those little tiny details. I was reading some background in this movie and like the work that they did to make sure that you couldn't tell what time period it is. Like people have cell phones, but there's also like I don't know what you call it, like a traditional like corded phone. The TVs are all from different eras. Everybody's devices. There's like a clamshell e-reader, vintage cars that are in perfect condition. Work they did where kids will be wearing like coats and then swimsuits on the same day and never seem like they're too hot or too cold. It's just really fucking jarring. And I think it is part of the reason that it holds your interest the entire time and you don't know how, is because something always feels wrong. There's always the tension of something feeling wrong in the scene. And you can't quite immediately identify what it is. It's the sex thing too. It's like,
talk about sex, Kevin. Get it out there.
Oh, let's talk about.
You've been chomping off the bit.
Tim and I have never had sex.
Yeah, tell us, what is it like, Kevin?
I've ever talked about sex.
Yeah, what's that? What's that? Can you spell it for me? Is there 2 E's or is there? What are you saying?
Oh yeah, it's
Seeks?
SECKES. I believe is the old English spelling. The way it's so interesting how it gives this weight to sex where theoretically, all these kids, there's like the one kid that's like, oh, we should just have sex and then you can just pass it on to me. I don't care. Like I'll take it from you. And it's such a quick action that could do that. But the consequences of it are so extreme. And it does kind of feel like, it's on paper, it's just sex is just a very simple thing. But in culture and society, we attach such an extreme weight to it. It does change relationships to such an extreme degree that it's like you can't write it off as just a simple action. It always holds this extra weight. So
I think, sex definitely is on the forefront of this movie. I think it's also just about abuse in general. And like the lead character,
wow.
I mean, the lead character is having sex, but it's like not healthy sex, I would argue. Like it's not like in a loving romantic relationship. It's like a guy who's trying to give her something. It's another dude who's like cocky and just really wants to hook up. It's about another dude who for some reason we're supposed to like feel sympathetic that this dude has been like pining after this girl who has been a victim of this abuse. And he's like trying to hold her hand and kiss her while this is going on. And for some reason, we're supposed to believe that they live happily ever after at the end of this movie. It's like she is surrounded by like toxic, shitty dudes who are just trying to take advantage of her. And I think that's like a huge part of this, like there are ways to have sex that like don't leave you feeling miserable about yourself. But I don't think she gets to experience that,
Do tell, Tim, because I've never actually experienced what you're talking about.
Listen, I've heard that once you're married, things are great.
This podcast was brought to you by the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, can we get into some beefs? Because I did some math, which I'm terrible at math, but we've had some fun math segments on the pod. I think one of the big beefs with this movie, or like in general, what people talk about as beefs with this movie, is like the rules that the creature follows, right? Like at some points, it's like the guy is telling us at the beginning of the movie, Hugh is like, it's always walking towards you and it's always going straight towards you. But near the end of the movie, we see it throwing stuff. We see it on the roof. We see it kind of deviating from this thing. And those could be like that could be because Hugh misconstrued this, or maybe we're just not supposed to know what's going on. It seems to kind of fall apart at the end. But I don't know if this is interesting to you guys or not, but I was like, how is this thing following them all the time? So here's the little bit of math I did, right? The average human walks 3 to 4 miles per hour, right? So let's just say 4. Assuming it's like 24 hours in a day, 96 miles a day, that's like 100 miles a day to be safe, right? My daily work commute is like 8 miles. So I get to work. I've got 2 hours before this thing gets there, you know, like, just like thinking about it in these terms. I'm like, you have to drive. So you have to drive like 100 miles a day to get a day ahead of this thing if it's just walking towards you. I was like, if you, here's what I did was from LA to New York is like 2,800 miles. So if you go to LA, you've got 28 days till this thing shows up, maybe. So like, I was thinking like logistically, like, you know, if you've got the means, you just set up a Facebook group. You're like, okay, I need one person to have sex with on the West Coast. And then, you know, that'll buy me a month. And then they just need to come to the East Coast, have sex with somebody. That buys us another month. I was like trying to figure out how to do this. But like, the kids aren't leaving the state.
I have so many things to point out. Okay. One, who are these people you're having sex with bicoastally? Like, wait, they're not going to fly over here. Like, oh, yeah, is that thing going to kill you soon? We should go back to New York right now. 2, it's that I did agree with that. Like, I was like, why didn't you just leave town? You just got on Hinge. I was like, well, I got to give this to somebody else. Like immediately, like, why didn't you leave? If it goes at a pace of like that. Yeah. Why didn't you run and leave? Like, why didn't you move to, I don't know, Paraguay or fucking Spain, something like that. And 3, I love that you broke it down mathematically. I also love that you hate math, but got very math heavy very quickly.
Just 100 miles. That's really funny. 100 miles is a lot. That's like, you know,
it is a lot.
I was like, I'll just go to New Jersey. It's like, no, it'll catch you in New Jersey. I mean, you have worse things to worry about in New Jersey, but like, you got to leave. You got to drive to Montreal every day. You know, like, this is a big commitment. Like, you could live with this, but you got a plan, you know?
Dude, picture Christopher from The Sopranos getting hit with this thing in New Jersey. You go to Jersey, you hook up with Christopher from The Sopranos. This guy dealing with it. I don't know. Maybe it's cut that. That's not a fun.
It follows Sopranos.
Don't cut it because I've been watching episode 1 of The Sopranos for like 8 or 9 years now, and I've seen The Many Saints of Newark twice. I've watched it 2 times. I think it's great. I think it's so much fun. The Sopranos episode I can't, but from what I understand about that kid, yeah, he's not getting out of this. And like his dad is gonna be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? He's a fucking, you know, he's done. He's done. It got him. And then, you know, woke up this morning. Like, it's gonna be one of those. That's the end of the episode.
Dude.
But
no, oh man. Where do you think it takes place? Do they ever say?
I think it's all like a fictional. I think it's like a fictional thing. I think what Kevin was saying about the time period stuff is right, where it's like, it's a place out of time. Like, it's like, it's supposed to feel like a weird fantasy
American type of city, or
yeah.
Like the theater they go to is like a theater I don't ever like see really anymore. Like the theater they go to is like a very
playing the piano. So weird.
Yeah, it's like, I think that's really, really cool. But that's like a very specific, like old timey type of like in New York, we'd have to pay like that would be like a $40 affair. Like someone's gonna play music to like the movie. That's like an event it's gonna be type of thing.
There's going to be like a full orchestra playing along to the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, which would be fucking sick. But like, that's not something you casually do. And everything just feels so casual in the film. And like, there's the streets, like, yeah, it's, I actually didn't think about that until you brought it up, Kev. Like it is made to be very like almost all American and like generic, but like there's so much jarring shit within it. That's wow.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, I love this movie.
Julian, you love this movie. Do you have any beefs with it? What are your beefs? Things you didn't like about it?
I don't like that whatever happens to you is transmitted by sex. I think that gives like a very negative connotation to like youths, to like teens, like exploring whatever. I think it's a very, like if I saw it when I was 15 or 16 instead of like 25 or 20, like whenever it came out, I would be like, oh, I won't have sex ever. I won't do that. I'd be an idiot to do that because then my grandmother would chase me down completely nude at her own pace. Like it does that to you. That's a beef. I don't like the who she ends up with at the end. That like, wait, did you just grunt? Did one of you just grunt?
I mean, that dude sucks. I mean, he sucks.
Yeah.
He's a weird incel who's like stalking this girl, and we're supposed to feel like sympathetic for him, or maybe we're not supposed to feel sympathetic for him. I don't think she doesn't have a healthy male relationship in this entire movie.
No. And that's actually a beef too. It's like she's like, well, I guess like in order to like I want to really like, that's what it starts out with, that before you even get to like the horror of it, like that she just wants to like date this dude, and this dude is like the end all be all. Like I have never been on a date and then left abruptly at the movie theater and then be like, hey, I'm sorry about that. Let's go have sex in my car. Like that's not a healthy thing where someone's just like, okay, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'm sorry we left the movie theater so abruptly and weirdly like that, but they don't even watch the movie. He sees something and they're just like, can we get the fuck out of here? And like, oh my God, I like him so much. It's like, what? What's wrong? You got to talk to somebody about that. There's something wrong.
It seems like such 19-year-old bullshit where it's like, it is so clear. I mean, I guess I've seen this movie before, but this guy doesn't give a fuck about her. Like, how is any girl? It's such like a 19-year-old girl thing to be like, this guy's the best, and he like doesn't respect her at all. I'm just like, that's why these characters are young. They're making dumb mistakes. They're doing like dumb stuff, but like also, you know, mistakes like that or whatever shouldn't be the end of your life, which like it is. I mean, it's a death sentence. You know, to like sleep with the wrong person or whatever. And that's super hard. It's crazy that this guy has this thing that follows him and takes different shapes, but he's willing to go to a movie theater and he literally doesn't even think about the monster until he turns around playing this game that she said, like the monster got within a movie theater's distance of him before he realized it was there. That seems insane to me. How is he not taking her to like the other side of town? How is he not flying her to LA? How is he not like doing anything? He's just like, yeah, you know what? We'll go on this date to this movie theater and whatever happens, happens, man. It's all good. It's crazy to me.
That's another beef I have with it too, is that it puts like men in and we are shitty, but it like directly is like, it just makes him seem like shitty in the way of like, it's not even like he's trying to date her. Like he's trying to get rid of this thing, of this, what's following him. And it's just like, it's like all like played out to be like that whole date is like really, really cute until you realize he's like freaking out about the thing following him. And it's like, you didn't really even ever like her. You really like, it's like toxic masculinity in a way that like, I didn't realize when I was watching it, when I was in like a theater watching it this morning, I was just like, oh yeah, guys suck. We're awful.
There aren't any good guys in this movie. There are no good guys in this movie. Her dad isn't even like around in this movie. That was like a thing that I think I realized this time is like at the end, the creature looks like her dad. And her dad, for whatever reason, is like not around. And it's like, did he leave?
Oh, I thought that was purposeful. I thought that was a reason.
Like that the dad's not around? I'm like, but why is the dad not around? Like,
yeah,
what?
Like I thought it looked like her dad towards the end because like all of her male relationships were like fucked up. And then like at the end, that would be like the most fucked up thing. It's like, what was going to kill you? Like, oh, your father. That's what I thought, at least.
Definitely. There's a thing where I saw a theory online that it can only look like people who have been infected by it in the past.
Oh.
Wait, Kevin, what did you say?
Oh, I saw a theory online that said that it can only take the form of people that have been infected by it in the past. So the theory is that it took the form of her dad and her dad's not around because her dad like had an affair and this thing killed him.
Oh.
I could
That's
see
crazy.
it. But then I don't know about Greg's mom, because it takes the form of Greg's mom. Maybe she's like way far down the line. Maybe she was like, 20 years ago.
Maybe she's dead too. Maybe they cheated with each other. Maybe her dad cheated with the woman across the street.
There we go.
Because he says that his mom is not around. Because he's like, we can go up to this cabin. Will your mom notice? My mom doesn't notice anything. So what if the two of them had an affair? Then they both died from this thing. I don't know how you end up getting to kids in this, because it's all like children dealing with this for the rest of the movie. But like, that's crazy. That's a good theory. I'm a fan.
Somewhere there's a pedophile.
Yeah. What was your beef, Kevin? You got any big beefs?
All right. So I'll do a beef and then I'll transition us right into thieves. My beef was going to be that the plan to kill the creature is terrible. It's such a bad plan. This is an inhuman thing. Why would you ever think that just electrocuting it would work? But I read an interview with the director and he said that was very much on purpose. They're kids. So it's supposed to be like a real Scooby-Doo gang version of like, how do we get rid of this monster? So I'll give it that. I think it ratchets up the terror in that it's like, clearly this plan is not going to work. And, obviously it goes awry. It's a little goofy to me that the thing started throwing like electrical devices at her, but it was tense in the moment. So whatever. But I don't know. I like the idea that these are very young kids. I think they are, like 18, 19 range, but I truly felt like I was watching teenagers. So it felt like all of their decisions are appropriately dumb. Every single thing they decide to do in this movie is age appropriately so fucking stupid.
Yeah, very much so.
So that ends up being a thief for me. Just the idea that I feel like they really locked into like how a bunch of kids that would be completely ill-equipped to handle the situation would try to handle the situation. And then the other thing that I would list as a thief is the moment where it's a naked man standing on a roof. Amazing. Amazing. It's my favorite variation of it. Holy shit. So fucking eerie. Oh, I love it.
It's
How about
weird.
You guys, thieves?
It's weird that they're all naked and like elderly. There's something about that. I think that plays into like the youth, like sex theme of it. But like, it's really weird to me. Like just watching it today, I was like, I didn't realize it when I was in the theater, but I was like, why are they all 85 years old, nude, and just moving at like probably a natural pace for them, probably like at that age, probably a normal pace for them to go.
Yeah. Why? I mean, do you think that is like a reflection of sex as this like very, I don't know, it's considered this very adult thing. And so these are kids that have kind of stumbled into this adult world and kind of, I don't know, starting to.
There's like actually adults like chasing children because of the actions that they have done. And that's wild. That's what would scare the fuck out of me. That's like my biggest beef with it is that it's like a horror film that's also like a PSA that no one asked for, that no one really needed. Like, don't do this, or like, or we all think this. And it's a bunch of naked older people, like in a line, like in a marathon line, like the New York City Marathon of like naked older people just chasing you down step by step. It's like, did you have sex today? We're coming.
I think if it looks like the monster like kills you and then has sex with your dead body or has sex with you to death, right? Because like,
yeah. So
like if it's looking like the things that it already infected, I mean, it looks like a bunch of people who got like, taken advantage of. And so it's like, like there's that one in the kitchen. I mean, the movements of this thing are kind of like a weird beef. Like it doesn't make sense how like a window breaks and then 30 minutes later it's standing 2 feet from the window. That's weird to me. But like the first time we see that woman in the house, it's like this girl with her shirt pulled down, like peeing all over herself. And it's like, this is a traumatic fucking
Oh my
thing
God.
to look at. This is disturbing. So it's like it's portraying a victim, and something about like the portrayal of like a victim is like super cruel and like haunting, I think. It's crazy.
It's weird too. I like a lot of like, I like watch stuff like based on directors, and what's his name? Is it David Robert Mitchell? Is that it?
Who knows?
We can double check.
No
it.
idea.
I think he made a movie called
David Robert Mitchell.
Yeah, the Secrets of an American Sleepover. That was it wasn't a horror film, but it was basically like children like it was like a coming of age type of like night, like sleepover type of night, and like a very also same like nondescript town. And like I just really dug the way that it went from he made something that was really, really cute and like kind of like growing up type of thing to like kind of the same thing, but anxiety ridden, like horror filled. Like it was I don't know. I like stuff that's like from like I like to see where directors go. Where you have like a guy like this, where I didn't expect this movie from him, where you have like a Wes Anderson and it's like, oh, I know what I'm going to walk into.
Oh my God. Can you imagine the Wes Anderson version of this movie?
Just like somebody walking in. It follows me. It follows you. It follows me. We're going to be followed now. Oh, we're going to be followed now. Oh, I think we're going to be followed now. And then there's like, you know, David Bowie in the background and they do some kind of walk.
The thing like slowly makes its way up in the center of the frame to a door, and then it rings the doorbell and waits.
It's Bill Murray.
Owen Wilson's there. I was like,
completely naked.
oh my God.
And he's just like, oh, hello. I thought I was here to kill you. It's like, oh God, can you hang on 1 second? And they close the door and they have a whole conversation about it. That's a very Wes Anderson thing to do for a horror movie.
Yeah.
I want to see if he ever does a horror movie. I think it was a Life Aquatic, but
if It Follows was just old man Bill Murray ass naked, just like slowly walking towards you. Like that is awesome.
Any thieves? What's stole the movie for you, Julian? What's your favorite thing about it?
I think that main actress is really, really good. I don't know what else I've seen her in, but I watch enough horror movies that there are like, you know, like definite like scream queens. And there's not like a whole lot of like, it's weird to call it a horror movie. I'm pressed to call it that. It's much more like an anxiety movie. But I think she, like her whole portrayal of that, like that journey for her, like liking this guy, now getting this thing, now dealing with this thing and like dealing with her, like people around her. She's just really, her whole performance really like stole it from me. I loved it.
Hell yeah. Tim, thieves.
I mean, it's great. She's a great actor. I mean, I think like the premise for me is like the thing that sticks with me of just like the idea of this creature that follows you constantly. That idea is so good. It's so simple. It's so easy. It's honestly like a cheap thing to do. You hire an actor to just walk towards you. It's like, it's just one of the best. It's one of the best horror movie ideas I've ever heard of. It's one of the best horror movie ideas ever of all time. And I don't think this is necessarily like the most popular movie ever, but it's like, it's not like blockbuster stuff, but it is like genius. It's brilliant. It's such a good initial conceit.
That's insane to me that it's not as popular as I think it should be.
Well, it's not a slasher. It's not an action movie. It's like, it's a slow burn. And I'm invested the whole time, but it's not going to be like Halloween Kills is going to be like, yeah, it's a fun time. And this is not really a fun time. This is like a grueling, pretty serious, heavy adventure.
Weird fact that I dug up when researching this movie. Only 2 people actually die over the course of the runtime. It's Abby in the beginning and then Greg. That's it. Whole movie. We only see 2 people actually die.
Oh yeah. That's the anxiety. It's like a chase. It's like a chase type of like, yeah, I never thought about like the people that actually died. It's the girl in the beginning and then that dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is. And it's a wild ending for a wild movie. And this is our wild ending for this wild podcast. Julian, thank you so much for doing this, man. This is great. So great to have you again.
Man. If you guys ever have like another horror movie, let me know. I watch a shit ton.
Definitely. Got anything you want to plug real quick before we wrap it up?
Just my name associated with art. I got an art showing happening in November. This is my first time I talk about it. So gonna post about it soon. But if I have anything to plug, it's this podcast.
Wow. Plug it up.
We should always.
Oh my God. Just the best.
Perfect. Thank you guys for listening so much. This has been It Follows. Like and subscribe, do all that good stuff. Keep listening to the pod. Julian, thanks for joining us, and stay nerdy, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Later.